it was the moment of my great love for La Nouvelle Vague, the new wave. That's the way it was called, the French cinema. Italian cinema was becoming less interesting. It was the end of neorealism, the end of the great neorealism. Neorealism was becoming the Italian comedy, was changing. And I was totally fascinated by Godard, René, Truffaut, Rivette, Romer, etc. I remember that in my first interviews with the journalists were coming to ask me about, I was very young, so I was a kind of case. I always was saying, could we eventually speak French? Could we do the interview in French? But they would say, you are Italian, what's that? I would say, well, because French is the language of cinema. I was very extremist. And yes, in fact, in the 60s, which were really kind of glorious period for cinema, I felt I was part of a kind of movement which was including Italy, France, maybe Brazil, Canada, United States, England, etc. And I remember that the common point was that we were not only telling a story of characters, a plot, but we were very interested in talking about cinema itself. So there were like two movies going on together, the story and a kind of essays hidden between the lines.
But when you went on to make The Conformist after The Spider Stratagem, Godard notoriously hated it and told you so. Is that right? That must have hurt.
Yeah, it was after '68. That's where my great friendship with Godard, we were very, very good friends, started to shake. It was because he became a very strong extremist. He became pro-Maoist, and I couldn't stand the intellectual, the extreme left, especially the Maoist groups. My friends, I mean, many of my friends were like that, and we had constantly, all the time, discussions and fight and rows about that. I think that I got a member of the Italian Communist Party as a reaction against my extremist friends, Godard, for example. So he thought that I was moving towards a kind of more commercial cinema.
Were you?
Yes, on purpose, because I thought we were in a kind of cul-de-sac, in a kind of tunnel with no exit at the end of the 60s. There was this kind of misunderstanding about political cinema. And every movie had to be political. As I told you, I think that every movie is political. So I felt that all this kind of, we were used to call it rigor, of not thinking about the audience. In fact, I felt it was just the fear of talking to the audience and being refused by the audience. So I said I have to do a move. I have to move ahead. I have to switch from a cinema of monologue, like more or less all the cinema of the 60s was a kind of great monologue, but we were talking to ourselves, to a cinema of dialogue. I didn't know if somebody would have accepted that. I didn't know if I would have found an audience, in fact. And I think I did. And it meant to me a lot.